Hello and welcome back to Wyandot Lake, episode 12, our Planet Coaster 2 water park. Today we are going to be wrapping up our main strip of buildings for the Boardwalk, which of course is our second themed area. And the more I look at the area and how we have these strips of buildings, the more I feel like it really is lacking a name. I've not been able to come up with a name. If anyone has any ideas for names, let me know. Certainly open to suggestions. Probably not something we're going to name until kind of right around when the park opens, but certainly want to make sure there is a name for this kind of boardwalk strip of, I don't want to say houses, that's not the right word, buildings I guess is what I would just call them, or commercial spaces by the time the park does open. So this first building we are working on, I actually really like how it turned out. So this is going to be kind of like a warehouse kind of thing. Boardwalks a lot of times, they're old piers or whatnot. I was in Chicago a few months ago at Navy Pier there, and then I was out in San Francisco a year ago today actually, from the time this is being recorded, and we kind of went to the pier there. I cannot remember the name of it, so I'm not going to try and pretend to say it. But we were there about a year ago now, and one of the things that I loved was it was really just kind of old warehouses that had been converted, or in some cases were maybe even still being used. And so that is the vibe and the feel that I was kind of going for here. And I do think it came out really well. We're going to put big number 25 on here. It's Warehouse 25 because the park's going to hopefully open in the year 2025. So hopefully we can kind of get it done and open before the end of this year, which I don't think will be a problem. I think we should easily reach that. But yeah, so this is kind of, it's got some bathrooms, it's got our guest services, and then I believe, no, this is not the break room. The break room did not go in here. But it came out really well. I'm really happy about it. The thought is that this would also kind of serve as maybe a maintenance building. So the right side there is the bathroom, the left side is our guest services, and then the center is going to be kind of a maintenance, right? So this is kind of where maybe when they need a maintenance area, this is where they come in and out and whatnot. But it's a really simple building, which I think works really well. I talked a couple episodes ago about you want to make sure you have a lot of details, but because if you don't, it's going to look really bland. But at the same time, you don't want too many details where it's too busy. And I think this really came out really well. And I just love the color palette that came out with it. And I love the signage with it. The signage, the little overhangs. I just think that looks super, super great. Almost like it's kind of a little bit of a conversion and whatnot, which I'm super, super happy about. So yeah, so that's this building here. I also want to say, I think buildings like this are super important to a park because it kind of breaks it up and it looks a little bit older than some of the other buildings, which is really important because I think if you have an area of a park that's brand new and it looks brand new, people are going to know it's artificial. And by having kind of this building, you kind of see this kind of metal corrugated in the game has kind of that rust look to it, which just I think really does a great job at kind of balancing out the look, and it just makes it look so fresh than if everything just looked new. It kind of gives that kind of vibe and perspective and everything with it. And whatnot too. Yeah, and the lighting looks just super, super good. I love those kind of, I call them office lights. I know that's not the correct term. I wouldn't really call them fluorescent lights, but those lights as well I think look super great as uplights. They're super consistent and whatnot. So let's talk a little bit about kind of the design with the park, because it's kind of funny because I recorded episodes 10 and 11 this morning before work. It is now the afternoon after work, and one of the things I love about theme parks in this game is everything is constantly changing. So when I went to work this morning, I had kind of this conception in my head as to what the center area of the park is going to look like. And I know we're not there yet. We're a few episodes away, but I'm getting close in real life now to actually working on that area. And it's really evolved, and it really can go for this area as well, right? So you walk into an area with a preconceived notion as to what the area is going to look like, right? And I talked a little bit about last episode about I kind of write out my plans ahead of time. And so this area, like right here, is a great example. I had this idea that I was going to have these kind of 4 or 5 buildings, and this is what it was going to consist of. And then as I kind of laid things out and I looked at the sizing, the scaling, it kind of changed and evolved. And so you'll see here in a minute we'll add another building. But we've also, you've seen a couple times already, where we've moved buildings over from where they were originally going to stand, and we've kind of filled things in. And it just really kind of, I think, gives an organic kind of feel to it. Because very rarely in life do you have something that is going to be perfectly master planned. And I think a lot of times we think, these parks are, they're planning these things out 10, 15 years in advance, and they know that they're going to do this. And I think there's a lot of truth to that. But I also think a lot of times things are done on a whim. And you're going to kind of see that here with this area. So this building here, this is going to be kind of a apartments is what I would say it is. I forget the exact term. I was just with a buddy of mine that built apartments a couple months ago, and I forget what it was he calls these. But essentially, the bottom floor is retail, and then above that is going to be kind of a residential area. And so that's what we kind of went with here. And then we put these little tables in, which do a great job of providing a little shade. They're a little more private. But I would love if we got hotels in the game. This is one of the areas where I could certainly see a hotel going in. We'll talk about that later because we actually have a dedicated hotel we're going to build here in a second. But this is one of those areas that, like, you can put it in. It's like a little motel. I will say I'm not hugely overpopular about the look of the building. I think the scaling is about right, but I do think the building itself does leave a lot to be desired. So if you have any better ideas as to kind of what to do with this building, let me know. This entire corner here, I also will say, is probably pretty high on the redevelopment list for the park. I think this is a great area that we could put some more stuff in, maybe another pool, something like that. If you have ideas for what could go here to replace these things, let me know. We don't have any restaurants. I don't plan on putting in restaurants within the water park, at least. I talked about it before. It just feels like too much of a health code thing. But we do have a food place. We do have a drink place. And so maybe something can be done here around those to kind of replace those, or maybe better looking down. But let me know below kind of what you would do, because I don't know. I'm not sold on this building. It looks fine. It's not the best, but I will admit I certainly have kind of some plans for this area and some thoughts as to kind of maybe what can happen with this area in the future. And it certainly is an area that I think is going to see a lot of change within the first maybe 5 or 10 years of the park's existence, especially as we kind of work towards trying to build a dry park and kind of getting to that point as well. So we are going to change the wood. I do think the wood looks a lot better with this kind of tan look than it does the dark. And I have to say, I really love messing with colors. It's kind of funny, when you look at me in public, I have no color coordination. In fact, I am the opposite of color coordinated. It's really, really bad. I mean, just different shades of blue on blue, growlfits, the pure gray, different shades of black. I'm really, really bad about it. But I feel like in the game, within design in general, I do a very good job at kind of matching up colors and making sure things kind of fit together and look really well. And this is no exception to that. I think this looks really well as well. The roof was tricky. I might actually go back and redo the roof when we get the Pirates and the Fairy Tale. I just think a different kind of shingles may fit there a little bit better. But for right now, is what it is. It works. Yeah, so we are working on the signage here a little bit. I think I ended up naming these. I do not remember. But I will say, if I name something and you don't like the way it's named, let me know. Give me some better names. What I generally do is I kind of have an idea of, I think I want something kind of along these lines. And then I will kind of throw ChatGPT and say, this is what it is. This is kind of the theme. Give me, 10, 15, 20 names, and then generally, I kind of look at that list, and I might pull one of those names, or I might say, I really like the beginning of this and the end of this, and whatnot. So, I'm just now noticing this. I don't know if I noticed this at the time, but I misspelled Boardwalk. So, Boardwalk Bites. Yeah. So that is the name of this area. It's Boardwalk Bites. Yeah, so let's see, what time did I record this at? Was this a late night recording, or what time? No, this was recorded fairly early in the morning. So yikes, I don't really know what that was about. Apparently I can't spell today, so we'll have to go back and fix that, add that to the long list of changes that I need to make. And hey, I've said it before, we are constantly looking to change names. So if you have a better name, we got to go in and change it. Let me know. Yeah, would love to see that. So this building here. So I'm really nervous about this building here. So this is going to be a picnic area. I have a lot of memories of a kid going to Cedar Point and bringing, you walk through the picnic area, and I think Dorney Park maybe is still set up a little bit like this, but you bring the picnic, and then you go into the park, and people come out during the day. And I don't think I ever really experienced this. I don't think my parents ever did this, but I know my dad certainly growing up. You'd bring the picnic basket, you'd put it out there, and then you'd come back during lunch. And that's kind of the vibe I'm going for here. Obviously, all the food is within the park. You're not really bringing food in and placing it here, but the idea is kind of that picnic area within here. Now, here's why I'm nervous. I think I talked about this in one of the early episodes, but I have been going back and playing Planet Coaster 1 in between updates 4 and 5. I had a glitch within the game with building, kind of made it a little bit unplayable. So I went back and I was playing that, and I built a picnic area, very similar to this, kind of right next door to some food places, and nobody used it. And so I'm very nervous that that's going to kind of be the same situation here. I hope it's not, but either way, I think this is another area that is probably going to get redone here very shortly. Actually, I have a spreadsheet, not a spreadsheet so much as it's a Google document. It's kind of set up like a spreadsheet though, but it lists out every area in the park and where I think expansion can happen, and what I think could go there. And this building, I kind of talked about this corner being ripe for renovation. This building right here is number one on the list in terms of kind of future planned capital projects. That being said, that doesn't necessarily mean in year one we rip this out and put in whatever. It is something that when we get to a point where we say, okay, the park's in a good spot, we're going to do a capital project, which is probably going to be every 2 to 3 years. This is the spot we're going to look at. And maybe this area doesn't need it. Maybe this area is great. People use it all the time. We don't need to add anything over here. No slides, no pools, nothing like that. And it stays. I don't know that that's going to be the case, though. When I look at kind of the map of the park, and again, I have drawn out and sketched out kind of 75% of the park or so. This is an area that I look at and I say I think something could go here. So this is definitely an area that I think could get redone. I hope it gets used. I spent a decent amount of time on it actually, but we'll see kind of how that goes. My one gripe with it is I did go with kind of the floodlight lights. They were not scalable at the time. So this is actually something I was thinking about the other day, or not the other day, even just this morning. We've got some great lighting options in the game, but they're not very bright. And you can now scale down, I believe it's only to 50% though, the floodlights, which I don't think you could do with the original game. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but I think with the original game you could not scale those down at all. But I'm wondering now if you took those and you inserted them in, scaled them down, insert them into a light, if that would work. And so that might be something that if this is an area that is going to last, we might come back and do. That may be even a project from year to year. Maybe we don't make a ton of money in 1 year, so we want to do something a little cheaper. And so what we do is we go back and redo the light. But we'll just kind of see how that goes. But yes, this picnic shelter came out super well. And now for the last part of this kind of boardwalk area, and that's going to be this hotel. This is where the break area is for staff, actually. We put that in here. I'm not thrilled with the way it came out. It's going to be non-functional, obviously. We don't have hotels in the game. Maybe put hotels in later. I did try to do a little bit of scaling here. Like I did the full 4-meter high walls at the beginning, and then I kind of slowly scaled it down, and I scaled down the windows, try to kind of give that scaling effect that Disney is famous for, that I think a ton of parks use now. And so I don't know if it really could be converted into a hotel because of that. If it could, would certainly love to look at making it a hotel if they put hotels into games. And I think that's because I have a kind of interesting perspective on hotels in the park. And I'll start by saying if hotels go in the game, there will absolutely be a second gate built going into the park with hotels right outside the gate. That is absolutely something that is on the docket and on the list of things that we want to do. But I think having a hotel that was within the park is something that would be super, super cool. And I know Disney tried that with Rise of the Resistance. Obviously did not work out. I think everyone has their different theories as to why that worked out. I'll let everyone keep their theories, but I don't think it's a bad idea, right? Just because it didn't work out, I don't think it means that it's a bad idea. I think something that, if done right, if executed the right way, could be really cool. And so I think, you know, having the opportunities to, you know, you come into the park, you spend the day at the water park, and then, you know, the water park closes at 10 o'clock, and you go into this hotel, and you're looking out over the water park all night, and you're still within the physical park. The tricky thing would be adding in, you know, your amenities with it, because you probably aren't going to be able to actually leave the park. You know, maybe you can have a shuttle or something, but the idea, I think, would be you are within the park. And so we'd have to figure out the amenities with that, and so we may have to redo kind of this area if we want to turn this into an actual hotel, or build a lobby on the back end here within the team member only area, and adjust from there. But that's down the road. As of June 24th at 4:45 p.m., Frontier has not announced anything about hotels, unless it's been the last 20 minutes while I've been recording this. But that can be a conversation for another time. So my gripes with this is I just feel like it's too big. It just feels kind of out of place. But I don't know that that's necessarily wrong. I think you see a lot of kind of motels that kind of sit on the beach that maybe look a little out of place. To me, it looks very Myrtle Beach-esque. I've only been to Myrtle Beach once, and it was probably, 11, 12 years ago now. But from my memories of it, it just kind of feels Myrtle Beach-esque. And so, you know, it's fine. Maybe it's not as bad as I think. Maybe I'm just overly critical of kind of what I did here. But maybe it's just as bad. Let me know. Is it as bad as I think it is, or is it a little better than I think? I do try to kind of really decorate it. And I think I do a good job with that. So the thought is kind of the first floor is obviously your lobby. Second floor is going to be kind of some rooms. And then that third floor with all the big open space would be kind of like a conference center / event space. You know, maybe there's a bar up there. In fact, now that I say that, I'm actually thinking this could be an opportunity. If I ever wanted to put restaurants in the park, having kind of a third floor restaurant up there could possibly be kind of a cool cool thing that looks out over this area. I don't think that you'd be able to see any backstage utilities or anything like that from here, so I don't think it would ruin the immersion at all. So that actually may be something that I need to look at as we push down the road and we develop the park. But then after that, I think there's 2 or 3 more levels that obviously would just be your standard rooms, and your mechanical kind of on top there. And I think we ended up putting hotel or something up there. Of course, we got our back door because we've got our staff room inside, so you got to be able to access it from the back area as well. But yeah, overall it's fine. The decorations definitely make it, and that is something that I do absolutely love about this game is the decorations really do make the game. And I think I pulled from the mythological, I pulled from the resort theme, right? And I think maybe even 1 or 2 other themes here for this. And I just think that's what makes this game so fun is there's so many different ways to play it. I could say, build a lakeside hotel or a oceanside hotel like this is supposed to be. 100 people are going to have 100 different ways to build it, and it's going to be 100 different themes combined. And I just think that's so cool, so much fun about this game. But obviously we're putting in our little balconies here as well, which just come out super great. We end up, I think, scaling, and we actually may change them a little bit because looking at these now, these look pretty big. Yeah, so there we go. We scaled them down a little bit. I don't remember if we paint them at all, but super kind of on it. Could be better, could be worse. I do like that it's kind of in the middle. It just kind of feels unbalanced, I guess is what I'd say. This is the one thing. This is my favorite part of this hotel. So this hotel, you can see the back of it from the lake. And I didn't want to have just this bland white wall, but I also didn't want to have windows because I didn't want there to be rooms over here. And so, I think when you drive downtown in a major city, you see this a lot where they've got these just ginormous advertisements on walls. And so that's kind of what we went for here. We end up putting a spotlight on the ground so you can see it at night. But I just think it works really well because I think the idea is that would be your hallway. And then the rooms are just that entire half of the building because it's a pretty narrow building. So I think that just came out well. And then we are going to decorate up this retail spot. Again, I still don't remember what we named it. I've not looked, to be honest. I haven't put a lot of thought in since recording the last video. But I don't remember what we named it. But we are going to decorate it. And I talked a little bit about it's kind of that, I guess in the last episode, I talked a little bit about this isn't a location that I kind of see being turned into a indoor retail store because it kind of had this like quick service. You walk up and you say, "Oh, this is gonna I'll take number 17." They pull it off the wall kind of vibe and kind of hodgepodge, bunch of everything, kind of beachy vibe. And I think that all the junk on here really kind of encompasses that. It just really kind of enhances the look and the feel of this building. And it's one of those buildings I think you look at and you're like, that's a lot of junk on it. That's like a lot of trash. But just really looks really, really good. And so then we just spent a little bit of time just kind of cleaning some other stuff up here as well. And then we're going to put in these planners. So this is something that is kind of a signature to this area. Every area has kind of its own signatures, but these planners are going to be really the signature of the boardwalk. And so I really kind of wanted to go with that kind of LA, I don't want to say Rodeo Drive, or I think that's what it's called. Rodeo Drive, that might be Palm Springs actually. But I didn't want to really go with that vibe so much as I wanted to go with I guess I should say I did want to go with that vibe. Words are hard for me today, as always. But we kind of want to go with that vibe. And so we're going to put these planners in, and we'll go in, and what we'll do is we will put in, palm trees and lights, and that bottom edge on that concrete, we'll put in some tables. So maybe you get your soda or something. You can kind of hang out there on the boardwalk with your friends and all that, and it just ends up looking super great. I'm super happy with it. And then the backstage area here, we've talked about a little bit, and we're going to work on it, I believe, here in a second. But the power aspect. So we'll put in a little power building back here, which is going to look super great. Yeah, here we go. So we put this little power building in, which powers everything. I will say also, you see how the lines aren't like straight to the power source. One of the things I did do that was kind of important to me is I wanted to make sure that our electrical, our utilities was realistic, and so we ran it all under pathways. So say we ever needed to access anything, you would just tear up the pathway, right? They don't run under pools, which would be a hazard. They don't run under all these different things. They're right there. And so super happy to have that realism in. If there's anything in terms of realism that you think I'm missing, let me know, because I really do want to try to make this as realistic as possible. I have a decent-ish background in theme parks. I'll talk about that in a few episodes, so I feel like I know a little about what I'm talking about, but I certainly don't know everything when it comes to the realism aspect. So tomorrow is going to be really cool. We are going to start building our third slide complex. We're also going to finish up our wave pool and get started on decorating the physical boardwalk itself. Should be a super fun episode, so make sure to tune in tomorrow, same time as always. That's all I've got for today, though, so make sure to like and subscribe, and we will see you next time.